This is the Bitcoin 1-year overview reading for the year of 2024. It's currently June 29th, 2023, 2:21 p.m. Eastern Time. Bitcoin at the time of this reading is currently $31,534.88. That's USD. And the shuffle file that we're about to play for the Bitcoin 1-year reading was created on June 16th, 2023 at 11:28 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video right here. So the overall theme and behavior for the year, we have a prominent move higher through a key resistance. That's resistance on at least a 1-year scale, a multi-day, but at least a 1-year scale. We break through that resistance, we stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter with a full retracement of that move. So it makes like a triangular kind of pattern on a chart, and that's crossed with the works card, which is sideways rotation along key support. That'll be key support on a multi-year kind of scale, on a 1-year scale, key support, and we'll rotate sideways along that rise to meet the nearest key resistance and then fall back down and continue rotating sideways. Well, really what we want to be looking for when we're reading this is we're looking for like a triangular, these are both kind of triangular sort of chart patterns. We want to see a move from a low, like off of a low, up to meet a key technical resistance level, and then we fall back down and we continue rotating sideways along support. But there's that peak pop and drop that takes us to the peak, and it should be a notable amount of movement because it's a move up with a full retracement, right? And there's a big move to meet the low based on the moon card, a big move on a multi-day kind of scale that'll stand out on a 1-year chart into the low, when we likely have a low on either side of the high. Behavior around the highest high, we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance followed by a decline through key support. That's again resistance and support on a multi-day kind of scale. The thing about the disappointment card is that usually what happens is you're failing to break through key resistance that you tested once before, failed to break through, and then you establish support falsely and came back into the disappointment card where you failed that resistance again. But because you falsely established support, everybody's expecting to break through. Instead, you turn around and you decline through key support. So we want to be looking for that type of behavior around the high. It does look like there's a bit of a reversal here in April, so we'll take a closer look at that as a possible location of the high. I think that's probably where the high is. But the thing about the disappointment card is that could indicate that we have more than one high this year, like the same price level, we revisit it more than once. Either that or like there's a high coming out of 2023. Matter of fact, let's take a look at 2023 and see how we've been doing. We already established that we were a little bit off about the low. We have the lowest low around the cusp of March, April, but it looks like this ended up being the lowest low, although the low around the March-April cusp really came pretty darn close, which is why we picked up on it the way that we did. With that said, we moved higher. There's prominent crest in April, prominent crest in May, and then there's a decline in early June that offered opportunity to open up a long position. Off of the high in June, however, we should see a pretty significant decline based on, on what's transpired, where we are, and what the Ruin card and the Universe card are saying. But this is looking pretty solid, aside from getting the lowest low off, although we didn't really, when we first did this prediction, I don't think we indicated exactly where the lowest low, because it's not an easy one to predict, but we sensed somewhere around here, ended up being here on the first, however. So what we're looking for is the highest high, which really looks like we see it towards the end of the year, though we'll probably see in July kind of like a temporary top off in July before a sharp drop in August. Really is looking pretty solid. With that said, let's get into the week by week chart behavior here, and there you have it. That's the completed shuffle file for those of you that are interested. In January, and the way that you read this, guys, keep in mind, not each card's energy is going to line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time. So at times the timing may seem a little bit off. It's important to understand that we're, first off, not always right, and that there's such a thing as human error. But more importantly, you have to give it 2 weeks of wiggle room, because like I said, not each card is going to represent 2 weeks of time, even though we have it set up that way. What's more important to pay attention to when it does seem like we're off a little bit, pay attention to sequence of events, and that'll tell you exactly where we are in the sequence of events. But generally, it'll be on point as far as timing. It's just in cases where we're not so on point, look at the sequence of events. Each cluster of 4 cards represents a month out of the year, early part of the month, the late part of the month, energy about the month's high, energy about the month's low, and then on to February. So in January, we have a rally that offers an opportunity to open up a short position. There's a trade opportunity in there that's highlighted, and I'll talk about that in the paid version. For those of you interested in the paid version of this Bitcoin 2024 reading, this is also how you would go about getting your crypto or ticker covered by the channel. Anybody that's interested in doing that, you go to our services under our website, tarotfortraders.com, SO Meta Posts, and then you scroll down to 1 year report. Click here to order, and then that'll take you here where you specify the year of the reading. We can do any year. It doesn't need to be 2024, 2025. Like, we could do any year, same system. And then you specify the ticker symbol or crypto that you're interested in. It's one of the only ways you could get it covered super fast. Otherwise, if you just make a request, I mean, it goes on a list, but it's a long list. We do get to them eventually. In any case, if you're utilizing this information regularly, it really is the right thing to do. And guys, check it out. Just if you're wondering, the 2023 Bitcoin reading was created on October 26, 2022 at 10:53 a.m. Eastern Time. That's way before 2023 even happened, so we're still using that reading today. Off of the January high, which is likely at the beginning of the month, there's a notable decline. When we decline down to revisit a support level that we recently met once before, behavior around the low is low there. We have a pop and drop off of the low, so we likely go from a low to a high early in the month and then back to a low. And this is as far as on a 1 month kind of scale there. Behavior around the end of the month, we have a rally into key resistance, and then we break down from that resistance with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down, taking us into like a trough around the cusp of January, February. In February, we have a key resistance level highlighted. There's possibly a breakout, actually. There's a key resistance level highlighted in early February, and a notable trade opportunity in the February low where a lot of price change happens off of the low, which is probably around the second or third week of February. There's a big move to the upside with a rally increasing with momentum moving forward in time. We have like a trough here on the cusp, and there's a spike up on the way down to a lower price level here in February, but then there's a big move with the rally increasing in momentum moving forward in time, taking us to a key technical price level at resistance on a multi-day kind of scale where volume or volatility will kind of flatten out, but that's after a big end of the month move to the upside. In March, we have sideways fluidity, equal amounts of bulls and bears, inflow and outflow, back and forth behavior along key support. Generally speaking, the energy of the change card, it finishes roughly around the same price level as where it started. There can be big price swings, or it could be within a narrow range, but it's kind of back and forth. Looks like there's an important trough there in the second week of March. A big move out of that from the bottom of a range to the top of a range in the middle of March, taking us to a peak or crest. And then it looks like we decline off of that peak or crest off of the third week of March into a decline into a trough on the cusp of March, April. And then there's a lot of price change here. Really important trade actually around the low of March and early April, which we'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. In early April, a lot of price change. When you see the Ace of Swords on a 1 year kind of scale, often that means a top. It's an important resistance level, and usually you see quite a lot of price change around that resistance. Either a lot of volatility back and forth, or you'll see like a big move into it or a big move out of it. My sense is that there's probably a big move into that resistance. We go to the upside there and meet resistance, and at that resistance, there's a notable reversal standing out on a 1 year kind of scale, notable reversal around that resistance. So we go from a trough early in April into resistance, and we probably see that resistance or that important technical price level that we top off out towards the end of the month of April, where there's a trade opportunity and a peak or crest that'll stand out prominently on a 1 year chart that we sell off pretty notably from. Behavior leading into the April low is going to be 3 pokes through the same price level, followed by a sharp decline off of that third poke. We have an unexpected move to the upside in early May. The rally in early May forms when we have a rally along a diagonal trend line breaking through horizontal resistance to meet a second resistance, and then we pull back to somewhere between those two price levels. Important to point out that the high in May is also within close time proximity to a prominent trough for the year. It looks like key technical price level that'll be important on a multi-year scale is highlighted in late May most likely, but mid-May there's a big move to the downside, taking us into a trough that we see at the end of May, where we probably have a key technical price level there that's important on a multi-year kind of scale. Behavior around the May low will be a failed attempt to break through key resistance, followed by a decline through key support into the low. And then out of the trough around the cusp of May, June, there's a big move out of that trough to the upside. Trade opportunity there with a big move to the upside. And the high in June is formed from like a pop and drop. Trade opportunity there. Late June is sideways fluctuating decline that precedes a rally. Generally speaking, when you see the Empress card, that's an indication of a growth opportunity, an opportunity to open up a long position. And it looks like out of the decline that takes us into the June low, there'll be a move higher even in the face of seemingly overwhelming headwinds. So either chart behavior will make it look like we should go lower, but we go higher anyways, or there's a lot of headwinds that make us expect that we go lower instead of we go higher anyways. It looks like that low is probably early in the month. It's like a pop and drop. Right around the cusp of June, July, there's a trade opportunity, a cash out opportunity. Early July, we have a big move higher. It's either out of oversold territory or it's just like a prominent move, like standing out on a 1 year kind of scale. It could be to fill a previous gap down, or it could be like a short squeeze, something like that. Or in some cases, it's a gap up. But what we'll see is a move higher in early July to a key technical price level that the upper end of a range around the July high. We likely see prominent crest here in late July. It'll be a prominent crest in mid-July that could be another highest high. This could be where we have like a failed attempt to break through key resistance where we expect to break through. And then off of the July high, there's a notable decline offering trade opportunity. Multiple failed attempts to break through key resistance on a multi-day kind of scale there around the July low. And the decline off of the July high taking us into August looks like there's a little bit of a rally right around the cusp of July, August, and then a sharp drop in like the first week of July, August. A trade opportunity there. There's a lot of price change covered there in early August, taking us to a prominent trough for the year. I'm sensing this could be where we have a lowest low. There's a lot of low energy here in August, so we could drop pretty notably. There's chart behavior in early August that allows for one to position themselves in both directions, utilizing a key resistance level as like a mean point for a short and a long position. And you would put those positions on at separate times, not at the same time like a classical trader. Behavior around the August high, we have a sideways S formation that forms within a channel. We decline from a resistance to support, reverse, go all the way back to the resistance, reverse, go all the way back to the support. So there could be two highs. It looks like a lot of mixed behavior in August. So there could be two highs there, but there's definitely troughs throughout the month, so there's a lot of mixed energy, and I think we probably have a low somewhere in August. It's hard to determine if it's early or late August because there's so much going on here. In late August, it looks like there's a brief peak that's easily missed. Okay, so the low is probably towards late August. It's a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a sharp decline through multiple support levels that'll take us into the low. There's a near overbought peak or crest that we sell off from into the August low, which is probably where we see a lowest low. We either see a lowest low there, or I think the lowest low is actually on the cusp of January, February. There's possibility that we see it again around like the cusp of June, July, or in August, but it's hard to determine exactly where it is. It's just too much going on there. Sorry, guys. But with that said, September, we have a support level that's highlighted that's important on a multi-day kind of scale. We probably have a low in here. I'm picking up on a low in here around the cusp of August, September. At that key support level, it'll be important on a multi-year kind of scale. We'll revisit support at the September low in a period of sideways rotation where there's a sharp drop. The September high is going to be within close time proximity to an important trough for the year, and it'll form one out of a decline. There's a fast sudden move higher marking the end of that decline. Looks like a peak or crest towards the end of the month of September, and an important trade opportunity I'll talk about in the paid version in like the last week of September with some sideways rotation or false tops or something, some tricky behavior going on around a peak or crest there. There's a unicursal energy there in early October. October, we have a significant trade opportunity, one of the more important cash out opportunities, and I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. When the unicursal indicates a pretty sharp drop in early October, the low for October will form. The low for October will form when we decline down to and through support to meet a second support, and then we rotate sideways along that support. 3 crisscrosses back and forth through the same price level around the October high, confirming a bullish trend. And we have another peak or crest. This could be another location where we see a high for the year, probably in early November, on the cusp of October, November. November, I'm picking up on possible location of another highest high, but there'll definitely be a peak or crest there. There's a decline off of that peak or crest that looks to be right on the cusp of October, November. There's a decline off of it, so pretty prominent move to the upside, followed by a full retracement of that move back down there in early November, or around the cusp of October, November, and that's probably where we have a peak. There's key resistance there, and we have a fast sudden move higher taking us into the November high. We attempt to establish support near the November low. That's probably similar support to that of October, based on them being in such close numerologically. The 5 of discs, the 4 of discs, there's a chance that these are pretty close. And then there's a lot of price change in late November. It looks like it's mixed. It's movement, a rally to the upside, followed by a breakdown of that rally with volatility in early December, and there's a sharp drop that'll stand out in that period of volatility. The December high, there's a decline through multiple support levels. Late September, we have a rally along a diagonal trend line that ends with a fast sudden move higher, and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility and behavior around the December low. There should be bumping along key resistance on a multi-day scale, bumping along it sideways in early December. The sneak preview for 2025, we have a period of volatility that ends with a fast sudden move higher, and I think that's pretty solid. When we look at the 10-year, we've got a high, so there's a rally in 2023, which it looks like we've started into, right? 2023 rally that increases with momentum moving forward in time, but there's a high in 2024. There's also a notable decline in 2024 that ends with a fast sudden move higher, so it's hard to determine if we rally into a high and then decline with a fast sudden move higher afterwards, or if we rally into the high, there's a decline, and then the fast sudden move higher takes us into a higher price level. But I definitely want to be positioned in anticipation of a high here in 2024. Going into 2025, there's a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline through key support. So I probably want to be bearish going into 2025 in anticipation of a significant buy opportunity in 2026. Guys, that's the Bitcoin 2024 reading. Make sure to follow the rule of karma. It's super important. You do so here on the resources tab of our website, where we ask that you donate 5% of the profits that you make from this information forward to one of these charities. What that does is it guarantees abundance mentality in your mind. We ask that you also donate 5% of the profits back to the channel here at one of these links. What that does is it guarantees gratitude mentality in your own mind. It's also the right thing to do. And that leaves you with 90% of the profits left over. Make sure to spend that money out of love. The universe is going to send it back to you tenfold through this channel as long as you follow those rules. And thank you to all my angel investors. Blessings. I'll see you guys on the next one.